Hello crafty friends, I'm Lean from Studio Kato and today I have 3 card ideas to show you with the new giant balloon Glimmer and die set from Spellbinders. This was designed by Carissa Wiley, and as soon as I saw this set I had plenty of ideas. So I thought instead of just sharing one card start to finish, I would share all 3 and also my thoughts behind the design process. Now when I first saw this set, the first idea I came up with was probably what this set was designed for, or the way it was designed this way, is a shaker card. So now we're going to get to that. I'm going to first do some hot foiling. For my first card, I am going to glimmer everything in Aura Glimmer Foil from Spellbinders. There are 3 glimmer plates in this giant balloon or giant party balloon set. This is the giant circle, which is the balloon. There is a balloon string, and there is a sentiment as well. And there are coordinating dies included in this set too. Now I am also going to use a sentiment from the It's My Party Glimmer Sentiments Glimmer and die set, also from Spellbinders from the same collection. All the supplies I use will be linked in the description below. As you can see, when I'm foiling, I tape my piece of foil in place on my cardstock, and then I tape all of my hot foil plates in place as well. It's just the way I like to work. You definitely don't have to tape everything in place. I just find it easier to arrange everything on my desk instead of arranging everything upside down, kind of, on my Glimmer system. Now for my second card, I'm using a different foil color. I'm using polished brass glimmer foil, and I'm walking you through the hot foil process again because I like to see it, honestly. When I'm watching videos, I like to see people foiling because it's just so satisfying. Again, taping everything in place, you don't have to do this, but I find it just the easiest. The sentiment, the congrats, is again from that It's My Party Glimmer Sentiments set that I showed you earlier. And I just pulled that in because it's part of the collection and also because it's a great sentiment set. There are some really fun ones in there. Congrats to the bride or something is in there. There's welcome baby. So it's not just for birthdays. It's really for all kinds of parties, and I love that. Now I had some overfoiling here, so I just took my sand eraser and got rid of that, and then we're finally going to get into the first card. This first card is going to be really easy, but it's a shaker card, and again, I think that's what the hot foil plate was designed for. I am going to use a 3D embossing folder, the floating balloons from Spellbinders, to make a background. I always do this on a very large piece of cardstock and then I trim it down because sometimes 3D embossing folders can sort of shrink your paper in weird ways. So if you just trim it down at A2 size, you might get a shorter piece of cardstock. So it's not great. Now, again, why I think it's designed for shaker cards is because you get a die that cuts the outside of the balloon, but you also get a inner circle die. So it's really easy to make this circle into a frame. So I just cut a piece of acetate as well with the largest outside die. I glued that in place behind the sort of balloon frame you create, and then I added a strip of foam tape all the way around that. Now this is doubled up foam tape, and that makes it also really easy to cut into finer strips. So I love working with doubled up foam tape like that. And then I'm just going to fill this shaker up. Now because I am working with a 3D embossed background, I thought instead of just gluing this shaker down like I normally would, so attaching the shaker straight to the background, I thought I would close it up first with another piece of acetate. So I again cut a piece of acetate with that largest circle die you get in this set, and you can use this as a fun embellishment or a tag. You could make a tag out of this as well. That would be fun, but I'm just going to glue this straight onto my card. I'm using Nuvo Deluxe adhesive for this because it's a little bit stronger, I find, than Barely Arts glue, especially on slick surfaces like acetate. Now with that shaker element in a fun balloon shape, I think this card could absolutely be finished. Just add a sentiment if you want. But what I like to do is add flowers, especially these. These are from the Mini Blooms and Sprigs die set and also from the Bold Blooms die set. Some of the leaves are from different Spellbinders die sets. I save all of my leaves because I always cut plenty because you always need more leaves than you think you do. So I have a bunch of leaves of different die sets. I will leave a couple of the dies that I know for sure the leaves are from in the description below as well, but all of the flowers this time around are definitely from the Mini Blooms and Sprigs and the Bold Blooms die set. And I just love to use these as little embellishment pieces on my card, like here. I am going to do the same thing on all 3 of my cards. I'm going to use the same flowers because I have a bunch already die cut on my desk. I'm going to glue that sentiment right on top of my balloon, right in the center, and then all that's left to do is finish this off with a couple of embellishments because I can't help myself. I love adding embellishments to my cards these days. So this was my first card idea, that shaker idea, because again, that's what I think the Glimmer hot foil set was designed for. But let's walk you through my second idea as well. I wanted to, again, make a giant balloon because I love that giant balloon image. I think it's such a fun one and we always need birthday cards, but this time I just wanted to color it in. And the easiest way I know how to do that is with ink blending. The problem is that I wanted to preserve that white outline you get when you die cut the balloon out. And to do that, I created a mask. I used the Glimmer plate and I traced the outside and the inside edge of that Glimmer plate. And I'm going to use my X-Acto knife and cut in between those lines. You don't want to cut right on the inner outline because you're going to have your mask is going to be a little bit too small, so you're going to end up with a white line inside of your balloon image, and I didn't want that. So I just cut where the Glimmer would foil. And your Glimmer foil is going to resist the ink blending, so it doesn't really matter that the mask isn't cut perfect. Mine is very much not perfect. It's not even a decent circle, but it works. I don't have any spots that I'm missing while ink blending, and I am not ink blending over the foiled outline. So it all works for me. So I taped that balloon down, and then I also taped my mask over that. Then I can get to ink blending. This is sped up to the high heavens, but we all know how to ink blend by now. I do like to use blending brushes and my trusted Inkstand Mini to just help me along. I love that it keeps my tiny little ink cubes in place and I don't have to hold each one and get ink all over my fingers. I first blended a light orange and a light pink all over the balloon, and then I'm going to add some shading around the edges with some darker orange and darker pink. I really like orange and pink as a combo. I often gravitate towards it, and I'm just going to build up the color until I get a nice and even blending. Now at this point, I just wanted even more contrast within that balloon, so I grabbed an even darker pink and orange ink and I blend right against the edges to get an even darker color there. And that contrast is just going to help to make this balloon pop. Well, in a good way. Not in a, oh no, where's my balloon way. Yeah, I really love the colors of this and I love how this turned out. Now I'm just going to run my finger over the foiled edge, and that is going to get rid of any excess foil. This set is very cleverly designed, by the way. You have a little slit that gets cut with the outer edge coordinating die, and that is where you place your balloon string. So it fits right in there, and that's just to make sure you don't have those white die cut lines, the little white edges that are left after die cutting it. You don't see those, and you have a really nice continuous image with your hot foiling. So the balloon string hot foil touches the hot foil of the balloon outline. So it's a really cleverly designed set. I really like this. For my background, I thought I would do some Betterpress. I am using the So Grateful For You Betterpress plate. I love the Betterpress system. I did an entire review and some experiments on my channel as well a couple of videos ago, and I really love that video. It's one of my favorites I ever made. I discovered a great hack to do Betterpress on colored cardstock as well. So if you want to use this with all of your colored cardstocks, check that video out. I will leave it linked below. But for now, I am using the Betterpress cotton cardstock in the color Pebble. So this is a really soft gray, and I am just going to put a loop of the Spellbinders Best Ever craft tape on the back of it, pick it up with the clear plate of the Betterpress system, and then I can ink up that Betterpress plate. This is Betterpress ink. It is an archival ink, so if you want to clean this off of your plates perfectly, you do need an archival ink cleaner, or the Stays On ink cleaner also works. I am going to ink this up very carefully. It's a very detailed plate. You don't have to be careful in how you apply the ink. You just have to make sure everything is covered in ink. It's not super easy to tell, especially because these plates are so incredibly detailed. And once it's done, you just peel that off of your clear plate from the Betterpress system and just, gawk at how stunning the letterpress effect is. I really, really love the Betterpress system. It's so fun to use. And I think you can do so much with it. I just think we haven't really discovered the limits yet. I have plenty of videos planned with the Betterpress system, but let's focus on this card again. I wanted this balloon to be a little bit propped up, so have a little dimension to it, but it's quite a large area, and sometimes when you mail things that have a lot of foam tape on the back of them, the paper gets creased in the mail, and I didn't want that, so I first put 2 scraps of cardstock behind this balloon to make the paper a little bit more sturdy, and then I added some foam tape for more dimension. So this balloon is really, really dimensional, and I always love some good dimension on my cards. I think we all went to the school of Laura Besson by now. Dimension is life, and it's definitely true for a more simple card design like this, where you have really only one large image. You want it to stand out from your background. Again, I'm using those same flowers to dress up my balloon, and I prop the flowers up on foam tape, on really, really tiny pieces of foam tape, and the leaves are mostly just adhered down straight to the balloon with some liquid glue. Once the flowers are in place, I can tuck my sentiment in place as well. Again, the sentiment is from the It's My Party Glimmer Sentiments collection, and you get the coordinating dies in the same set, so you don't have to buy them separately. I love that Spellbinders does this. Most of their Glimmer hot foil sentiments have coordinating dies in the same set. I think it's a great addition to a Glimmer hot foil set, because I definitely get a lot more use out of my Glimmer sentiments if I have a coordinating die for them. I finished this off with some embellishments, and that's going to be it for this card. Another pretty simple card, but I love that I found a way to color that balloon in with my ink blending, because don't we all love to ink blend? It's such a great way to cover a large area with a lot of color. Now the third card is the real showstopper in this video, so obviously I saved it for last, and I love how this turned out. It's such a fun window card design. So you cut a window in the front of your card and you just see the sentiment from the front of your card, and when you open it up you reveal the balloon image. And I think it's thanks to how cleverly this Glimmer set was designed that I came up with it. You don't often see a lot of Glimmer die sets that have coordinating dies both for the outside and the inside of an image. And I really like that this came with a die to cut out the inside, because that's how you create this card. I first cut that inner circle die out of a panel of colored cardstock. This is an A2 size panel. I centered the die on there, and then to make this card a little bit more sturdy, because you could just cut this right out of the front of your note card, but I did want a colored background anyway. And when you cut a window out of a card, it's always going to be a little bit less sturdy, so I thought it would be worth the effort of lining up that die again. So I lined up the colored cardstock panel with my card base, then I lined up the die inside it and traced the die. So I can line up the die now with that traced outline of the die that I made with a pencil. So I never use my pencil when card making. I had to look for it for ages. But for this card, I used it quite a bit, because now I also traced that window on the inside of my card, because we're going to start with hot foiling. I lined the hot foil plate up around that circle I traced, that is the window, and then I can use some best ever craft tape from Spellbinders to act as a hinge, because once you add the foil, you're not going to see the pencil mark anymore. So I made sure that hot foil plate was in place before I taped it down, and then I slid the foil underneath it. I can then tape it down a little bit more securely and also place the sentiment in the center of that circle. I made sure everything was visible through the window, because the window is a little bit smaller than the hot foil plate, obviously. So I just checked that the sentiment was visible through that die cut window as well. I'm taping everything in place very securely with some tiny pieces of that best ever craft tape. And by the way, you can use this craft tape over and over again. This stays sticky for quite a long time, so save your little scraps of tape. I always put them back on the outside of my little tape dispenser thingy. Little tape roll. It's just a roll, there's no dispenser, and I just use those till they're not sticky anymore. Once that first bit was hot foiled, I place the balloon string image in place as well, again creating a hinge with the best ever craft tape and sliding a piece of hot foil underneath it. So it's lined up to overlap a little bit with that balloon outline. So again, you get a nice continuous image. You do see where the foil overlaps the other piece of foil, but it's very, very subtle. I don't think anyone will notice except a fellow crafter, maybe. I am first going to assemble the outside of this card before I do some more designing on the inside. So I am going to just glue that colored panel right on top of the white note card, making sure to line up the windows and the edges of the card as well. It didn't line up perfectly, so I did cut out a little bit more of that white window. But yeah, it was barely noticeable. I could have just left it like that, but obviously I wanted it to be a little bit more perfect. So yeah, I trimmed it down a little bit more with my scissors. And then I figured out a fun arrangement with my greenery. Now I also use, most of the greenery here is actually from the Club Blooms die set. I hope that's still available. It was one of the monthly club kits, I think from January this year. And it's gorgeous. I will leave it below if it's still available. If not, yeah, the club die sets don't come back in stock once they're sold out. So if you want the Club Blooms die set, and I highly recommend it. It's a really fun, large bloom die sets. You might want to grab it while you still can, and hurry. I fiddled around with this arrangement a bit. Again, most of the flowers are propped up on foam tape and the leaves are just glued down straight on that note card. Make sure to just glue them on the outside of your window and don't have anything sticky on the inside of your window, because then you won't open your card anymore. I'm reusing the mask we used for the second card, and I'm just taping that in place on my on the inside of my note card, because I don't want this balloon to be white. I want this balloon to sort of have the same color as the outside of my card, but with some added shading. And that's kind of why I grabbed some Concord & 9th cardstock, because they have coordinating inks with their cardstocks as well. So this is the Sea Glass ink, and I used the Sea Glass cardstock from Concord & 9th for the front of my card as well. Once again, I'm using the Inkstand Mini to hold my ink cubes in place, and just some blending brushes to blend the entirety of this large balloon image. My ink blending is very splotchy here, but I always like to build up the color while I go, and I don't worry too much about how even my ink blending is until I'm almost finished with it. Almost finished with shading my image. So the second color of ink I'm using to add some shading to this is Oceanside, and I do check periodically to see if the shading is enough for my taste, just by closing the card a little bit. I wanted some even darker shading, so I also grabbed, I think it's Peacock from Concord & 9th. All of these inks are Concord & 9th. I love, love, love their inks. I think, yeah, they're definitely the best in my stash. Obviously, I don't have every single ink available, but I do love the Concord & 9th ones. I wanted to set this window apart a little bit more, so I added a frame sort of around it with some white gel pen, just a dashed outline here. I should have done this before adhering the flowers, but well. I'm finishing this off with some gold pearls, and that's it. That's the card. It's pretty simple to make. I am always scared away from window designs where everything has to line up perfectly, but honestly, with a pencil mark here and there, it's quite easy to do. And I just love that reveal of the balloon on the inside, because you absolutely can't tell it's a balloon image on the outside of the card, so I love that. There's still some space to write a personal message, and if that's not enough, you can add a note card to the back of it, or add your writing to the back of the card as well. So there's definitely some space left for a fun birthday message to the recipient. I hope you like these cards. I definitely loved making them. I absolutely adore this collection from Carissa Wiley. I will leave the entire collection linked in the description, as well as Carissa Wiley's channel. I know every one of you probably already knows her, but on the off chance that someone is missing out on her beautiful videos and beautiful card projects, I will leave it linked below. Definitely check her out. She is amazing. She's an amazing crafter, and I think she really knocked it out of the park with this collection. I hope you liked the video. I hope you liked the cards. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up on this video. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you have questions, don't hesitate to let me know. And yeah, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.